Welcome to Time to Teach with Tammy, the podcast that gives tips, advice, and suggestions to teachers by a real teacher. So sit back and enjoy. And oh yeah, don't forget to subscribe. And we're back. Welcome to episode 100 of season 4 of Time to Teach. That's right, episode 100. It has been 100 episodes. I have delayed the launching of the season just because of current situation, COVID. We're currently going through COVID, and that is a thing of itself. So I have delayed launching. Typically I launch in September, so I waited. So those of you who have been listening, I was initially going to be relocating. I am from California, and my plan was that we were going to be heading back, and I'm living in Mexico. I've been here since 2009. And anyway, when COVID hit, I really did not think that now was the best time to, start anew. So I stayed, and I also started a new position in my current school. So this year I am teaching all of elementary. I am the technology teacher. So I'm with this new job. It's just a lot of learning, figuring things out. And of course, because of COVID, it's just a lot of screen time in general, which has been making other things a little more complicated. Anyway, so I kind of needed to grapple with what I was doing. And I feel like I'm in a good place where I'm kind of getting a routine down. I'm getting the idea of how my job goes. I'm in a good place where I can devote some more cognitive space to other things aside from just that. But for a while, I wasn't sure I would ever be able to think of anything else and have a brain space for anything else. But alas, here we are. I do have some extra space. It's not a lot, but I'm going to use what I have. Anyway, so this episode is entitled Season Kickoff, very fittingly, because that's what this is. So today's episode, I just kind of want to let everyone know the season is kicking off. There might be some changes, nothing dramatic, but I'm just kind of thinking of current times and what I can do on the show to best serve these times. So I'm thinking I might kind of rotate between themes like news and updates, current projects that I'm working on, and then possibly anything that might be specific to a platform or some type of program that I know many people are using. For example, at our school, we use Seesaw, we use Google Classroom. Those are for sure. We're a Google school, so we got a lot of Google apps going on, so there might be episodes that are kind of concentrated in those areas. That's primarily just to kind of share what we're doing, and if that helps to give anyone ideas, that is fantastic, because that is, of course, the whole point is that we're just kind of sharing us. Yet it's I who's talking. So, let me just kind of explain a little bit about my new job. I have been teaching early elementary, homeroom teacher for the last, 8-9 years. I've kind of lost track. I think I'm going into year 12 of teaching pretty much the whole time I've been down here, because I had just gotten my teaching credential, or I was just finishing. I hadn't even actually received it. I didn't receive it until I got here. And I'm in California, so it's all digital. So I've been an early elementary teacher for many years now. And this position is very much out of my comfort zone. So I will say, before I accepted the position, I did do a lot of research, a lot of thinking, a lot of kind of pros and cons, and I kind of connected online. I'm in a couple of Facebook groups that are devoted to teachers. So I connected online and tried to find out what other people's experience was. And people who are in this position seem to really love it. But ultimately, I did accept the position because I'm looking at it as a learning opportunity. Really do think that, you know, trying new things can be very good for growth. I'm very much someone who likes to stay in what I know, but I know that that's also a limitation that limits me so much. And so in the end, I did accept it after doing some research, after thinking about it. I knew, hey, at some point I was not even going to be here. I had actually even given notice. So I had it in my head for a while that I would be doing something different this school year. I didn't know what at the time. I had started to look for jobs. I did get a couple of requests for job interviews that I ended up having to decline because at that time I'd made the decision to just stay. And I just thought, even if I get a job offered, this is just not the environment that I want to be leaving. I just don't want to leave my home and leave my school and start new in this environment. So, yeah, so that's what happened. So one thing that I was really excited about with this position is the opportunity to get to work with all of elementary. I was kind of looking at my teaching history and, I've stuck with lower elementary, which I love so much. I love it. I love literacy. That's something that I have kind of discovered, especially after taking this position, that was one of the things I loved about my job was the literacy. I loved doing science workshop. But I think literacy is maybe where I was really finding a lot of fulfillment in. Yeah, so I did want to have experience though with other grade levels. Prior to coming down to Mexico, I actually had taught very briefly high school and middle school. So I did have some experience, but I feel like it was so short. It was during my student teaching. It was short and it was so long ago that I don't know that I really look at that as experience. I was still getting my feet wet at that point, so I don't know what all I learned then. But anyway, so I just kind of wanted to branch out a little bit, have experience with other grade levels, and I am so glad that I did because I'm enjoying working with all of elementary. So what I do in my position is basically work with all grade levels, and we do what we call cycles. So I started with fourth grade in my school. We have pre-first, we have early childhood all the way through high school. And in my section, elementary, it's pre-first through fourth grade, and middle school starts fifth grade. So I started with fourth grade, and that cycle was 7 days. They're like 30-minute classes. Typically, they're 45-minute classes, but this schedule was a little harder to work out this year because there's other things that they're doing. They're taking some other classes online. It's just the scheduling wasn't really, it didn't allow me to do the 45-minute classes that technology typically is. So instead of doing a 6-day cycle, which is what this position usually does, it went to 7 days. And then I did that also third grade, another 7 days, second grade, 7 days. And then in first and pre-first, we kind of decided that because they are so little and the parents are really having to drive so much of what they do, we cut out one of the classes and gave them 45-minute classes of my class. And then that meant that I could shave off 1 day in the cycle. So yeah, I just finished that. And so now I've worked with all of elementary and I'm starting cycle 2. I'm back to fourth grade. Which I'm finding is a grade level that I absolutely am loving. They give me energy. I don't know, they're just so fun. They're funny. They get my humor. They laugh. I like that. So I am really glad to have had the opportunity to get to know different grade levels to some extent. I mean, it's not the same as being in a classroom. So obviously I understand that my experience is not what it would have been if we were at school, but it still is an experience. Okay, and going into a little bit of something that I have been finding very, very helpful is the use of, well, first of all, really good organization. That's always been true. I'm a very organized person when it comes to my work and everything. It's the only thing that keeps me sane. And at first, working in Google Classroom, because I'm used to Seesaw, what's nice this year is I get to use both. So it's kind of nice. I can continue learning, keeping up with updates on Seesaw, but also learn Google Classroom, which prior to this year, I really, I've done a few things because our school has had us on Google Classroom. Sometimes they post things for us to do. But I've never used it as a teacher, so it's been quite nice. But so what I'm doing is I've basically decided that I'm organizing my cycles by topic. So, in Google Classroom, you can create a topic. So the last one was cycle 1, and I had my activities there. And then at some point, I have so many students and some kiddos. I don't mind being flexible and giving extensions on dates, especially in this time, but really always I'm like that. But I have like 540-ish students, and the problem is when kids are just posting things, I don't actually know. I'm not getting updates. I don't know if I'm supposed to be getting that somewhere, maybe on some device. I typically use my laptop. Not typically, I do use my laptop. I'm not getting any updates there, and I'm certainly not going through 540 students' work regularly to see if anything has changed in there. I just can't, or that would be all I did day and night. So I have to cut it off. So what I did with cycle 1, had all the work there, told them what their deadline was, and then after that, I put a little icon of a what is that called? Well, a lock, I guess, a lock, showing that it's locked, and I put no longer accepting work, so that if anyone happens to submit something, it was locked. I mean, technically they could submit it. As we know, it would show up that it came in after the deadline, but I was not going to necessarily know about it, and I certainly wasn't going to be recording it because I wouldn't have known about it. So that's been very helpful. And now I'm doing the same thing with cycle 2, and I'm also putting the dates on my assignments. So right now it's open, cycle 2, because I just started it, and I'm making sure with the name of every assignment, not only do I have the due date, but within the name itself, the due date is on there. I think this is helpful for me. It's helpful for students. And of course, any parents who are going in there and looking at it, they can see. So by kind of organizing things through the topics, either by date or by cycle, which is the case, another way to do that would be through units, everything under a unit. That would help. And then using the icons to kind of help distinguish. If you have different units, you could be using different icons to distinguish. If you have an open unit and you're accepting work once it's closed, you might use the lock icon like I'm doing. So I've been finding that the icons are really helpful, and just adding in dates also within the name of the assignment seems to be working for me. And then I think it just makes it very, very clear. So that was a little tidbit, a little bit of a trick that, not really a trick, but something that I've been finding helpful that I wanted to share with all of you. Okay, on that note, I think we're going to end it. I just wanted to kind of kick off the season and let everyone know kind of where we are headed this season. So that is it. If you have any tips that you'd like to share, I would love to hear from you. Best way to get a hold of me is on Twitter. It's at TammyJ123. That's at TAMIJ123. Until next time.
Wait a minute. Wait 1 minute. Before you go, don't forget you can catch our show notes online at www.timetoteach.libsyn. That's libsyn.com. We're also on Facebook at Time to Teach. Don't forget to check out our Facebook group, Teachers for Effective Curriculum. And if you're an educator with your own podcast show, I invite you to join our brand new Facebook group, Teachers Who podcast. Let's grow a community where we can network, problem solve, and discuss anything and everything podcast related. I'll see you there.